Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Learn How to Play Gary Grigsby's War in the East. That's right, I'm going to do a short video, well rather a video on how to play this game for everyone who doesn't know yet. I'm going to use some of my experience from the blind Let's Play and what I have learned about the game to tell you guys all about how the game works. Alright, we'll start with some information about units that I've gathered. This is a unit that I've selected, which is an infantry unit. And in this case, it's got a lot of numbers. The numbers in the actual icon for infantry are respectively the attack and defense value. Right now this unit would be useless as an attacking unit, as its attacking value is 1, but it's still got a pretty good prepared position and relatively good supply for defense. It's dug in, I think. It's got 100% of its movement, which is this white area around here, which isn't much. It cannot go through the entire area of this particular scenario, and its supplies are really down to 19% and 25%. It doesn't have any fuel, 25% ammunition, 90% supply, but no fuel, because it doesn't have any vehicles. It does, however, have 34 guns and 3,077 men. If you right-click this icon, you get a more detailed view of what the unit comprises of. Feel free to pause the video and read this. Right now it's not particularly critical for this part of the video. One of the reasons I loaded up this scenario is because it shows the variety of terrain and weather effects in the game very well. For instance, you can see that all of this is pretty much frozen over. Currently we're talking frost and visibility problems everywhere. And so that means the river hexes that normally would provide you with a great natural barrier when defending are now almost frozen, and you can easily cross them with motorized vehicles. And other units also have less difficulty traversing what would normally be rough terrain. Although not all of it is positive, obviously. If you're on foot, you're still gonna suffer attrition walking down the frozen land. Especially the units here that are low on supply. As you can see, they don't go very far on foot. It's simply not possible through this kind of weather. Although if you have a motorized brigade such as this one, motorized division I would say, you would have less trouble traversing that territory. That automatically brings me to how to use transportation for supply. Now, normally in this game you would use mainly railroads to get from A to B, and that has everything to do with the fact that Soviet Russia had a very primitive infrastructure when it came to rails or to roads. It has got railroads, but it hasn't got very many roads that are paved or in any way developed. So railroads were the best way to get around. Now railroads do have a limit, and I'm going to show you that right now. If you were to go to map information and then click this, toggle rail damage, you see these green and red and orange markers. Now these green markers are railroads that can be used by your supply from the headquarters to the units, and they go all the way out, for instance to this hex, and then they sort of stop and go into the red markers. Red markers mean that the railroads in these areas are damaged or somehow harassed, for instance, by partisans. And the orange hexes are basically railroads that are being repaired by your construction battalions. So slowly but surely, they're trying to reach out to the units that are out here defending the line from this area, from the headquarters units onwards. So headquarters can deliver very far out, and even beyond those railheads would be no problem. You can even see it if you click on this particular. Yeah, there we go. This particular view. This is what we can use on rail transport. We can go all the way out here, and that's it. This is where it ends. Porkhov, in this case, a town, and then you'd be on foot or by car. Now, from this poor town in the frozen wastes, it would be a drive towards the front lines, and that's where supply becomes a bit of a tricky situation. The farther you are from one of those railheads, as they call them in the game, the more fuel and vehicles your units are going to consume trying to keep themselves supplied. And that's one of the reasons why these units have such low supply. They're in a very difficult place to reach, and basically supply is not getting in very easily. You have this soft factor button up here on the top right. I'm going to click it a couple of times. There we go. Supplies. As you can see, that little triangle on the left side of the unit marker becomes a certain color. And red is bad, green is good. Obviously, most of these units have red markers because they're poorly supplied right now. Some of them still have relatively good supplies, and as you can see, the Soviets have perfect supply, so their rail line is probably completely intact in this particular scenario. How do you fix that? Well, as said, you have rail repair groups that come out of your headquarter units, and you sometimes have a separate unit that's actually movable by you. This isn't movable by me. I cannot do anything with these guys. They're just simply gonna do this automatically. But sometimes you have a special section or a couple of units that you can move around the map and tell them where to go. And for the next bit, I think I might go to a different scenario. Alright, so how do you mount a effective attack with great advantage whilst moving on the enemy from a starting position? Attacking is always more difficult than defending, well, generally speaking. Not always. The previous scenario has a defending situation that is actually quite difficult to hold, but that's an exception to that rule. Generally, when you're defending, you're in an advantage position. So when we're attacking, like now, we want to attack very carefully, and also keep in mind that the terrain will factor in, and also the weather, which is clear right now, might factor in at some point. Alright, so you have two ways of attacking in this game. The quick attack, which is just selecting one stack of units in one hex, or just, for instance, one unit in one hex. There we go. And then attack with those and try and smash the enemy with that stack. And you also have the option of doing a deliberate attack. You hold the shift key and you go over other units. And you basically point at the unit you want to attack. If I were to right click right now, all of these units would attack this one, which is kind of overkill, so we're not doing that. But what we are going to do is do a quick attack on these guys here. Now, as you can see, I have 32 attack power, and they have 8 defense. So we should break through, technically. And we're not going over, do we believe we're going over, are we going over a river? No, we're not going over a river, so we should be fine, I think. Does it say river in this hex? No. There we go, routed them. They're off. And now we can move into that town and take it for our own. And there's a HQ unit here we might want to grab immediately. There we go. Taken. We're immediately going to maneuver ourselves around this security section unit, I think. Well, we could, but for the sake of getting a getting an encirclement, that's what we'll be doing. Alright, now there's a large river here, and that will give us some issues. And let's see, can we attack with these guys or not? Apparently not. Oh, there's an HQ unit here. We can deselect that by clicking it. And yeah, let's clear this this security section. And then sort of hold this area here and have the HQ take up position here. And as you can see, we can now technically surround these guys with the infantry by moving over this area here and crossing the river. I think I might actually. That sounds like fun. Now, as you can see, this takes movement. This takes some effort as well by our infantry. And I guess we should do a deliberate attack across a river, mind you, on this unit. This is a fortress. We might not end up well. We've got tank units supporting us here. 5 units attacking this one unit. There we go. They surrendered. They couldn't hold. They couldn't go because that was a fortress unit. They're basically stuck. And now they've surrendered. And we're gonna push through here. Cut their supply line here. And basically move into this. Well, I don't like moving into a swamp with a tank unit. That's a very, very bad plan. So we're not doing that. Not today, boys. We might not have a choice. You know what? We're just taking the infantry into this swamp. There we go. And then this tank unit can go over here. No problemo. Actually, it could still move. That is really good news for us. That means we can sort of cut through here and into this town. Or rather, we can move these guys into town. And there we go. The encirclement of these units is pretty much complete. They're not going anywhere. Not as far as I'm concerned. Now we do want to make sure that we don't get attacked across the river. Unlikely, but possible. So I'm going to move this infantry unit up there. There we go. That's a sort of security measure to make sure that they don't move around us into our zone of control. We can also move... do we still have one of these units? We do. These units are in fine condition, though they cannot... They no longer have movement points, so we're not doing that. But these guys might. Yeah. Yeah, they do, actually. They do. Well, in that case, there we are. That's what we'll do. So, we've got full control over this area. And there's a river in between, so it's very difficult to traverse in between these two. And we've pretty much got these guys cornered. Now, we've got this motorized division here. This one. And if we move it in between here, we can make it worse for the Soviets. So that's what we'll do. I think we're gonna do exactly that. We'll take out this HQ unit here. There we go. And there was an artillery unit there as well. We're making it worse now. And since they are motorized, they are best used in open terrain, such as tanks. Same deal. Motorized units are best used in open terrain, not in light forest, such as over here. There they are. And we're just gonna scatter them. There we go. They're gone. And we could move these guys over here, which we will. Alright. Great. So, we're sort of making a nice little pocket here. These units are going to be crushed next turn because they can't go anywhere, and we're going to try and push through this area as well. There we are. No problemo. We're going to move these guys up. There we are. Tell them to attack. Well, this unit, I guess. Take out their town. Rout them. There we are. Then we have 2 more units that can still move. And I guess we'll move them into the fortress here. But the HQ unit is following them. It's fine. Oh, we still have a motorized division here. Look at that. Who would have thought? That's good news. That's very good news, actually. Normally I wouldn't do it, but I'm going to move them into this sort of forestry area here. They're SS, so they should be able to take this area without too much trouble. And there we go. These units are now all trapped. Now if I were to change the turn, I'd complete the encirclement. I'll explain about that in a moment. If once I've moved this, well, these 2 units, we're moving both of them. We are moving them over here, I guess. Oh, we could have moved them by train, and I'm an idiot. I'm colorblind. I'm moving the purple ones in between these ones. I didn't mean to. Oh well, we can still move them back. I guess we will. Spending fuel like nothing else. Normally, this is very bad practice. Yeah, let's move you up here as well, I guess. You need to go help your friends, your buddies. Yeah, go over here, that's fine. SS Polizei units were semi-military police units. They're very terrible units. We're gonna use them to clear these guys up next turn. Anyway, as you can see, that all the area that we've conquered is sort of dark gray, and this is sort of light gray. And the reason for that is that zone of control here is full. This is a full zone of control. And this here, this little dark gray area, we've only recently conquered. And the enemy might counterattack us and capture it for their own purposes. They probably can't. I don't suspect they will. But, well, you know, they might. So I think I'm gonna move one of these tank units here as a security measure. Like so. There we go. Yeah, that works. We don't need a great deal of men there to, especially against this security section. That's ridiculous. We don't need that many men. We can just move these infantrymen up here. There we go. So, there we are. So that's a good encirclement, as far as I can tell. They cannot escape, not easily though. The river will pose a difficulty for them to traverse, and it's almost impossible to attack across a river, so they will not be able to easily escape these 2 pockets I've created. I'm gonna flip the turn, I'm sorry, and then get back to you. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see that these units that used to have great defensive values have now dropped to defensive value 1 and 2 respectively. They are not doing very well. And we can pretty much crush them where they stand, which is exactly what we'll be doing. And we'll use these 3 units. There we are. There we are. Some of them surrendered, some of them retreated. And they actually managed to retreat, which is not exactly what I planned, but alright. There we are. And then we had a deliberate attack with these 3 units, and all of them surrendered. So we got an entire division to surrender, and that's how that works. And now we have the freedom to move out wherever we want to go without ever spending too much effort, which is great. It's what we need. We want to save our men and our fuel and our ammunition. So there we go. Now for this bit, I've loaded up my my own save game, the save game for the Let's Play that I'm doing on my channel, and I want to talk a little bit about allies and how to use them. This is the Fall Blau scenario, or Operation Blue, or Case Blue, which really details the attack on Stalingrad and the Caucasus, the capturing of the Baku oil fields. It has quite a few Allied units. It has Romanians, it has Italians down here. There we go, these yellow units. And it also has some Hungarian units, which are up here. Now, Allied units generally only appear on the German side. There are, I think, only a few exceptions to that, but usually the Soviet Union fights as an actual Soviet Union in the fact that all of them are in one great Red Army. So that's how the game models it, and the Germans really did have some countries that were somewhat positive towards Nazism, or were simply really happy to help fight Stalin. So they have allies. Now these allies vary in quality very, very strongly. For instance, we have a Romanian cavalry division which, well, is perfectly stocked with supplies, as you can see, but it only has an attack value of 1 once it's moved and a defensive value of nothing. So these guys are not particularly good once you run them into the area and use all of their movement points. They can go to 0 defense pretty quickly, and they're not very strong units. They're fast units though, so that's nice. These Hungarians, well, what can I say? These tank units, they do have some defensive value to them, but that's about it. The infantry units are not particularly well. We check their morale with this flag there. They have the lower morale. Here we go. Red morale. See that little red triangle there? And that goes for the Italians, I believe. They have orange and sort of, well, in some cases, orange and mostly red morale. So Romanians are relatively okay. They're fine troops, but definitely not perfect. They have orange and sometimes green morale. And that goes for experience too. They're generally not very experienced troops in comparison to the Germans. I would recommend using allies only as a stopgap measure, or for instance to close an encirclement, such as over here. I don't know what I'm doing here. Alright, last but not least, I want to show you guys some of the UI options. This game is full of details. For instance, if you go to map information, we've already seen the rail damage info, which I can select right now. As you can see, we have relatively good rails still, because we're at the start of the scenario, but we've destroyed part of the railway here as well in our attack. That will be repaired over time, as said. And we have the fort levels. There we go. So basically fort levels equals dug-in troops and troops that have built simple bunkers and actual forts, such as over here. There we go. We have isolated units. If there are any, they're gonna mark those. Apparently we don't have any completely isolated units right now, which is good. And we have factory locations. If you capture those, you will make it difficult especially for the Soviet player to get new units. So that's always good. The Soviets were known for moving their factories east the moment the Germans knocked on their door. Nice fact there. And they did, and successfully moved entire factory towns all the way to Siberia, I guess. And there's build up break down units. I'm still not sure how that works. You can break units off as a security section, for instance, from infantry divisions. I'm really not sure how that works yet. And you can create a fortified unit in selected hex. If I were to click this, I would start digging in here, so I understand it. I never use this button up to now. The info screens, I like those as well. Here we are. We have the order of battle. If you want to go into this, be my guest. Have a look around in the game when you get in there, and you can see how the high command all the way down works to I believe division level. There we go. So that's awesome. You've got obviously the losses screen, a pretty important one. It looks like we've lost 200,000 men, and the enemy has lost almost 300,000 men. That's pretty hefty. Wow. Holy crap. Huh. But this, I guess, is taken over the entire campaign. And then we've got the, let's see, the production screen. I'm not sure what that does. That's probably production of replacement units. Yes, that's what it looks like. I'm looking at, yeah, tanks and such, right. So this also influences obviously how quickly a unit replenishes its tanks and vehicles and such. We have the victory screen. Right now we are somewhat in the plus versus the Soviets, but not much. They'd still have a good draw, I think. They still hold Baku. We have the weather screen. There we are. That's interesting, but it's all clear, so it's not very interesting right now. We have air doctrine. I don't know how that works yet. And we have reinforcement withdrawals. So some units will withdraw, some units will reinforce. And it will say exactly which units are doing what. It's interesting. We have the commander report screen. There we go. I'm really not quite sure how to use this yet. I have not checked this, to be honest. And then there's the event log. If you want to read what happened in the previous turn, in the Soviet turn, for instance, you can read it here. But right now it's empty because we haven't done anything yet in this turn. It's for this turn then. See, I haven't seen this part yet. And then there's administration, where you can save your game, etc., preferences, all those nice, cool things. The game option screen. We're not going to go into that. Anyway. All these options are for transportation and air control. You can have the regular movement thingy, where you can regularly move stuff. There is the railroad movement stuff. Can I show? Yeah, there we go. So when you click that and you have a unit that can actually be transported by train, such as this one, I'm just gonna, for fun, take the train, go over here. There we go. That's what happens when you do that. Pretty awesome. There we are. Huh. This is a mountain division. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Let's move them back. There we go. Chugga, 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 chugga. As you can see, you can go pretty far with this. Do this a couple of times. No problem. And let's have them exit the train, shall we? Oh, we need 15 movement point thingies to actually unload those. Okay, I had no idea. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You also have naval transport, which isn't very interesting in this particular scenario, but if you had a sector with an actual port and you have units in a port, you can ship them into a ship and ship them out to another port. That's basically what that does. Amphibious transport is something similar that I haven't figured out yet. Air recon mode speaks for itself. You can select an air unit and tell it to reconnaissance over a certain area. Bomb unit mode, well, you can bomb an enemy unit, for instance this one, but right now we don't have any bombers in range, so we can't. Bomb airfields. If you want to bomb an airfield, you can select one of the airfields and bomb it. Bomb cities, same deal. And then we have air transport. You can move units from one airbase to another. I'm still not sure how. I haven't figured that out. Air transfer is when you want to move air bases by air. Makes sense, doesn't it? And then there's the battle sites, which is all over the place. There we go. It shows where you did air attacks, where you did land-based attacks in this particular turn. There we go. So we had quite a bit of a battle here. Huh. And this is the end turn button. So, cool. Now we know. Now this is, I've shown this button before, is one of the more important buttons. The set soft factor, difficult word to say. If you do that, you can actually see the experience on units, and green being the best experience, red being the worst. And you can see the supply, again green best, going down the way and all the way to red with the worst, but most of these guys are well supplied, except for this Soviet unit, which is in trouble. And ooh, we've got quite a few units captured here. That's nice. That's really nice. Okay, good to know. I gotta remember that for recording. And obviously you also have fuel, same deal. And you have units attached. I'm not sure what that does. There's a units detached, attached option that I haven't checked out yet. There we go. And then you can turn it off. So that's pretty extensive. There's a lot of information there, and you can definitely do a lot of... okay. Oh, nice. Okay, well, good to know. You can get a lot of information on your screen by using that UI. It's all pretty detailed in the manual. Info screens also detailed in the manual. I would really recommend reading the manual. I've said it before in my Let's Play series. I'm saying it here again. Read the manual. It really provides you with a lot of information. It's a bit of a big read, but it will help. Right. I think that sums that up. Thank you for watching this video. Obviously it was shot from the German perspective and mostly the attacker's perspective, though some of it was applicable to both attack and defense, depending on what your preferred side would be in certain scenarios. Obviously when you are defending, some other rules would apply depending on which side you're playing, but always remember that the land and the weather and the supply condition are vital for any effort to succeed, attack or defense. And use the land, use the terrain, use the weather, use everything to your advantage, and try to disadvantage your adversary is the name of the game in Gary Grigsby's War in the East. And there are so many ways to do that. I haven't even shown you the actual air attacks because I couldn't in my example, apparently. But they also, well, if you have air superiority, obviously they will make a difference for you as well, the aircraft of your Air Force. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, please leave them. Please like if you liked this video, if you had fun, if you learned something. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It will help me make more videos. Thank you for watching, and see you all in the next one. Bye.